The views and opinions expressed by the Loft Party Podcast panel participants and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the Good Times with Good People company, the host, or its sponsors.
Just not getting it.
Welcome everybody out there in podcast land. The Good Times with Good People company proudly presents the Loft Party Podcast, where it is always about good times, good people, and good talk. Now that you've received your invitation, the best way to let us know that you're in attendance is to download the party or become official by joining us on Facebook, subscribing on YouTube, iTunes Podcasts, or Google Play Podcasts. Good. Thanks for joining us. Grab a cocktail, light a cigar, or whatever you like to smoke. Share us with your friends, and make yourself at home. I'm your host and moderator, Rio, and let's introduce today's panel.
Hey out there in podcast land, I'm your host, Rio, and welcome to the Loft Party Podcast Special Edition, Return to Vegas. Hey, high-end shopping to Hoe Card popping. It's getting a little pricey. But before we get into important things, let's get into important things. So, what are we drinking? Well, we all stopped inside the Miracle Mile shops at Planet Hollywood at the Tipsy Robot. And first, let me say out there in podcast land, I was skeptical, to say the least, about getting a drink made by a robot. But I have to say, maybe because there's no human error, maybe because the person programming the robot is a drink aficionado, actually, these are pretty good drinks. I personally got a Jameson and ginger, and I was quite happy with it. I will introduce them in a second, but I'm going to ask them to say what they ordered before I introduce them. So, to my immediate side, what did you order when you ordered at the Tipsy Robot?
So I had a Jameson whiskey sour. First I had to look, it was kind of cryptic the way you had to order. You had to look on this iPad type apparatus and kind of go scroll through and see what you wanted to get. So I had to scroll through and put my drink in of choice because it wasn't there. So I put in Jameson. We had to call the guy over to kind of help us out. This Jameson whiskey sour was the strongest whiskey sour I'd ever had in my life. It had me on my ass. I was like, whoa, okay. So it was like 6 parts Jameson and a little splash of sour. So, and it was like, bam, there you go. So, yeah, it was good. It was nice for the rest of the night, let me tell you.
All right.
Nice.
And what did you get?
I just had a simple gin and tonic, and it was really good.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I did not have a gin and tonic. I wanted a gin and tonic, and they didn't have it, so I got a vodka soda.
Yeah, and once again, was actually kind of surprised at the quality of the cocktail making from a robot.
It was really good, and it was a little Vegas show right there, watching them make it.
Okay.
It was nice. Mm-hmm. Videotaping and seeing, what was going on, see your name pop up on the screen, a little celebrity status. It was like, oh, that's my little drink.
There you go.
That was nice.
All right, so before we get into what we're smoking, let's introduce today's panel. So, since I didn't introduce them before the drinks, and that was on purpose, anybody out there in Seattle that remembers DJ KG from Cube 93 in Seattle, now she's a lawyer working in your area, and but she is still very much at heart DJ KG, because momentarily, just a few minutes ago, she actually, we were joking that both of us can air check at the drop of a dime, and she did so for me, and she has still got it. Now she is practicing those skills to, how do we put it? Call bullshit?
Pretty much.
Did you call bullshit on people?
I let it be known. I have no tolerance for that.
Okay.
So, none.
And then, of course, the anonymous female, because she doesn't want you to know her name. And that brings me to what we are smoking. Or, in this case, what am I smoking? Because both of them are busters and won't be smoking anything. So,
now they know good and well that I don't smoke.
well, yeah, this is very true.
And I don't smoke, and I come from a land of weed, but that's all right.
Yeah, which is very true. It's very true. I don't know what you guys are doing wrong out there in Seattle, but she doesn't smoke.
Hey.
Somebody fell down on their job. That's all I'm saying.
Might have a little brownie sometime. You never know. But anyway, moving on. Your family show? No, not family.
No. Well, man, you can let your family listen if you want to. But I am smoking an Arturo Fuente 858. If I'm not mistaken, I've actually had this one on the show before, and I've told you guys out there that the Arturo Fuente line of cigars is probably my favorite. And anytime that I get to smoke Fuente, I'm pretty happy. So that's what I am smoking. And before we move on, we do want to do today's RIP. And today we're going to double down on praying for the Houston and Gulf Coast areas. To this point, there's been at least 50 dead in the Harvey tragedy down there, and we are definitely sending our thoughts and prayers. Anybody out there who hasn't donated to the Red Cross or found some other way to get your charity of choice that's helping out.
Local affiliates.
Please do so, because anything that you can give monetarily or physical items are definitely needed, and oftentimes it's the things that you just don't think of that they need the most. We were having a conversation, the anonymous female and I, and we heard somebody say that boxes and tape were something that they really needed down there. Clean, unopened, unused, like underwear and socks and all that kind of stuff.
When you think about how many pets are displaced too, and they need kennels and they need food and just drinking water.
Yeah, so anything that you can do would definitely be helpful.
I guess just clean water.
Yeah.
I mean, they need water to wash.
Yeah, exactly.
Water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But with that, we'll be right back.
Hey, you can search for the Loft Party Podcast on iTunes Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, and on our Good Times with Good People YouTube channel. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, tweet us on Twitter, and if you like the content we provide, donate to us on Patreon. www.patreon.com/Loft Party Podcast. You can find all of our links below. And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
And we are back, and before we get too deep, let's play a quick party game. So, sing at least one line.
Sing one line.
I threw a monkey wrench in there. You wasn't expecting
beverages, though. After the beverages?
Especially after the beverages.
Dang. Okay.
Especially after the beverages.
Right. I'm not singing. I'm just telling you that.
If I'm sipping on this whiskey sour, you're gonna be singing too.
Okay. Sing at least one line from a song with rain in the title. I'm picking rain because we're not getting any out here in Las Vegas. It's been 100 and something. It's crazy. So, I'm going to start with KG.
Oh, what do I have to do first? Next, sing one. I'm gonna say one. I'm gonna say one. All right, I'm gonna say, "Come on, baby, let's go get wet."
No,
anybody know what that is?
I know exactly what song it is. But with that said, I think they need to hear you sing that chorus.
No.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Come on.
No. I'm not.
You got this.
I'm not crooning today.
You got this. You got this.
Can I just tell you guys what the name of that song is?
No.
Okay, you're outnumbered.
No.
2 against 1.
Yes.
2 against
like
1.
That?
2 against 1. Yep, that's it. Can You Stand the Rain by New Edition.
Okay.
And I was more than positive that she was going to pick that song regardless of the fact, because one thing you don't know about KG out there in podcast land, she is a massive New Edition fan. And so I was pretty sure she was going to pick that. And then, of course, that brings me to the anonymous female.
I can't think of how the song goes right now, honestly, but if I had in my head, it was We'll Stop the Rain by Cretan Clearwater Revival.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that was a good one.
There were several of them that went through my head, and I was like, I can't think of who sings them.
That was good. That was a deeper dive.
Okay.
That was a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with the old standby and standard. Just singing in the rain. Singing in the rain.
Okay, well.
See, I wasn't afraid.
That's all right.
With my beverage to still sing the line. Unlike some people.
I might need a couple more. You know.
I would definitely need more. You might not understand but I wouldn't care.
Okay. And with that, we'll be right back.
Hey out there in podcast land, we would not be doing our duty if we didn't acknowledge the sponsors of the Loft Party Podcast, the Majestic Restaurant and Jazz Club, and the Majestic's Pendergast Club. The Majestic carries on Kansas City's tradition of great food and jazz. Let them show you why they are the classic Kansas City steakhouse experience. 931 Broadway, just 3 blocks from the Kansas City Convention Center. J. Rieger & Company, a Kansas City distillery. Whether whiskey, gin, or vodka, neat or on the rocks, J. Rieger, Kansas City, sipping good since 1887. C&P Construction, Kansas City's premier wood framers. 50 years of quality framing and craftsmanship. Just email david.cnpservice@gmail.com and start building something new today. And our friend and frequent guest, Lane Boland. Thank you all for all that you do. Time to rejoin the conversation.
And we are back, and here we go. Party politics. But I do suppose that this time we are talking about the politics of where we are today, and that is Vegas. So not so political this trip, but did want to give you some facts about some things. Before the show started, we were kind of talking about this particular weekend, because the weekend that we're recording is a holiday weekend, and KG found some pretty interesting statistics. How many tourists did you say were supposed to be here this weekend?
Something around I think it's like 325,000 people. I mean, the Strip isn't really that big, you know. So all those people in that little, something like that. Something around there.
Yeah, that's just crazy. And you
have that much heat.
Yeah.
Exactly. All that body heat in.
I mean, it was
packed.
It's palpable how many extra people are here this weekend. The streets are just, it's just crazy trying to cross the streets. And everybody here has been here before, so we know just like weekends versus this weekend, and it's a little crazy. Not horrible, but a little crazy. From those 325,000 people, there's probably going to be around $250 million made this weekend. Because apparently everybody and their brother and father are working here this weekend. So you've got Bruno doing a couple of nights. I know Mary J's doing at least a night that I know of. Brittany, Dave Chappelle, and Kevin Hart are both doing shows here. If you're into the EDM thing, Steve Aoki and Tiesto, and it's there's a ton of huge names here this weekend, and and that of course contributes to the kind of the bottlenecking of that many people, and but with all that said, I actually did want to kind of talk about what you remember from your first trip to Vegas.
Let me think about that first trip to Vegas. I guess I'm up again.
That'll be you. That will be you. That's KG out there in podcast.
Yeah,
She's being coy as if I'm not looking right at her. First of all, let me just say that, like, I'm looking right at her.
First trip to Vegas. I was definitely under the age of 21. I'm not a huge drinker, but I felt the need to try all kinds of wonderful and not so wonderful beverages that night because actually I was here with family. My cousin and I, we went to a bar, and the guy that was there was just like, I'm buying drinks for everybody at the bar, and just laid down stacks of chips. And so I just started trying all kinds of stuff. Right?
And therein lies the young person learning how to drink.
Yeah, I was like 19.
Not knowing to not mix your alcohol.
Yeah, and I didn't know any of that. I think, matter of fact, at one point I had a Corona in my hand, I think, if I recall, and I don't even drink beer. So it was a little bit insane. But so that was my first trip to Vegas.
That is hilarious.
And vomiting and things ensued after that. You know, you guys know the story, I'm sure. So that was that.
Yes.
And
And that's all we're going to say about it.
That's all we're going to say about that.
Yeah.
So what do you think stood out? Okay, so before I go back for my second question, I'm going to keep going around. So Dynamic Female and I, our first trip to Vegas was
about a year ago.
Yeah, it was about a year ago.
Under a year ago.
Okay.
And so I guess the question begs is, what do you remember were standouts from that trip to Vegas?
I just remember, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily a standout, but it was just kind of funny that, the first casino we go into, the first night we're here, the very first thing we see is somebody passed out at the slot machine. And it was just, it was just kind of like, okay, so yes, the stories of Vegas are real. Yeah. It brought it in just
in very clear perspective.
Right there.
Yeah, that was their machine. They were going to stay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And and I mean,
Like
he had his arm covering
They had been feeding it.
Yep.
Right.
They
gonna get hot.
This is going to warm up.
and it's just spending time with people that you like and sharing experiences and
Yeah, because our last trip to Vegas, we actually came with some good friends of the show. So it's funny because this trip and that trip are very different trips, just because of what we're doing and what we're seeing. Like the last trip was definitely more of a gambling based trip because people we went with, one of them was,
there were so many things. It was he's a retired professional gambler, I guess.
Yeah.
Poker player, and that was during election season, so people were betting on Hillary versus Trump and who was going to win. And a lot. I mean, it was the beginning of October, so they didn't have long to, I think the Chiefs were very close to possibly going to the playoffs at the time, and there was just a lot of. I guess if there's one thing I learned from Vegas,
we didn't lose any money.
No. Actually, I left with $25 more than I came with.
Yeah.
So, well, you're winning.
Yeah. Now, what we did do wrong.
I shouldn't say came with $25 more than I spent to gamble.
Right. Yeah. What we did do wrong was not give more money to the guy that we were with because he's really good at it. And he left with a lot of money.
I was really happy to. Yeah. It was during Super Bowl. Oh, no, Super Bowl. It was during the playoffs because he was betting on Vikings and somebody.
Yeah. He beat the Chiefs. It was Chiefs game, but he bet. But he bet 2 games. He bet.
Well, it didn't really matter now, but it just
But it was because he was definitely all about trying to find a sports book.
Well, and we're really big on and I think it comes from our family backgrounds. We're both really big on shared experiences around the kitchen table. You know, whether it's conversation or, you know, talking over preparing or eating or whatever.
Definitely.
So a lot of the things that memories from that trip and this one have all kind of centered around the places we've chosen to eat.
Yeah.
And our actually, even funny enough, our journey to them. You would not be disappointed walking the strip at Vegas at any time, night or day. So even if you're not a gambler, it's just fun to experience that. I mean, it is over 100 degrees here, and you pack extra people into, that it just, even walking and traffic. So it's one of those things where you just have to know what you're getting into and be prepared for it. I think that's what we've kind of learned.
Yeah, but still, but not bad. Just it's Vegas, baby. You just gotta know it. You gotta know what it is. I think for me, I think it was all really new first trip, and like you said, it was really about kind of the communal experiences. Like I remember when we kind of got set up at the I want to say at the blackjack table, and we were all sitting there playing, and that was actually kind of cool because really.
Yeah,
because we're really not. Yeah, because we're really not big going to casino. We don't go to the casinos at home.
Right.
But going and everybody around and betting and then having somebody there who's like really good at it, and we can like ask betting strategy and so why do you do that?
Well, that I think is the one thing that he wasn't just good at teaching.
No, not really. Well, he was okay, I think, trying to teach us. He was not necessarily okay trying to teach his wife.
Well, she's kind of like me. Like, I ask a lot of questions because I want to understand, and that gets frustrating to somebody that just wants to do it. It's like I want to do this right now. I'll talk to you about it later.
Right.
And we, because we're not married or related to him in any way, we back off and we're like, oh, okay, all right, you do you. But it's different when your wife is like, how's this? How's that? Let's go find something for you to do.
Right.
We watched that in Living Color. It was pretty funny.
Oh yeah.
Because he was playing Baccarat.
Oh.
And
he really knows how to gamble.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Like he does. He had poker tournaments.
We saw him play poker. We saw him do craps and then Baccarat. Yeah. And he sat down and was playing. We were asking questions. He got up, got us settled at the blackjack table, played a couple hands with us, joked around, and said, "I'll be back."
Went back and played.
I wasn't like,
we got what he was doing.
We both knew we were like, he needs. I now understand. He needs quiet. He needs to.
He needs to.
He doesn't
to
want
zone in.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay.
He's a numbers guy on a very different level.
Was he in the back room behind the glass playing, or was he?
He did that.
Okay.
When we first got there, the first night we got there, he left us at. So we Airbnb.
We ended up taking the tram and going through. We went through the Bellagio that night, and then we went. There were a couple places that Franny took us, but it was we left him and came back around later because he had no interest in any sightseeing whatsoever.
Yeah. He stayed. Wherever we left, I'm trying to remember what the last place was, but it doesn't matter. He stayed to get into a high stakes game, and he stayed. And he didn't come back home at 5 o'clock in the morning.
He came home
at the table all night.
Change and go to his conference he had to go to.
Right.
And that was literally it. He said, but he was up. He was up couple grand when he from the table.
Yeah,
that he left.
he was frustrated that he had to leave.
Yeah. Because he wanted to stay there and clean him out. Because he.
But we had a good time, and he's even said, when we've seen him, within the last couple months, he's like, that was one of my favorite trips to Vegas.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He had a picture of my ties.
Okay.
And I do many picture.
Okay.
Took the full picture.
Yeah.
Stack of straws. Because he was already behind.
He was a few drinks behind.
So he wanted to catch up to everybody. So he was just like, what can I get a picture of? And they were like, my ties. He was like, yeah, I'll take a picture of my ties.
Okay. Wow.
Serious.
None of us are drinkers on that level, so we were all like,
because we were all having like the mimosa specials.
Sure.
No. He was trying to get caught out.
So that's what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was interesting trip.
So, okay, so got to push forward to something that's a little bit more serious. We probably won't spend a bunch of time talking about it, but I did want to mention getting back to the fact that the Gulf Coast just got through Harvey. They're currently watching for Hurricane Irma that doesn't seem like it's going to hit the Gulf. It seems like this is... You're saying you thought it was going to hit the East Coast?
Yeah, I think it's close to maybe in about 5 days or something. They're thinking to go up the East Coast there. So they're kind of, buckling down and seeing what's going on, battening the hatches, whatnot.
So we're adding the East Coast states to our prayers that if you do get hit, it's not bad, and that maybe you don't get hit at all. But either way it goes, there is no coast in Vegas, so maybe you should just come here and see Bruno Mars and spend a little gambling money.
Get a little 24-karat magic action,
Exactly.
you make that happen.
Hey.
Why not? We're in Vegas.
Put your pinky fingers to the moon.
That's right.
And come on out.
There you go.
With that, we'll be right back.
Hey, you having a good time? Let me introduce you to a couple of my media brothers. First, www.americathemixtape.com, a cipher on American politics, society, and culture. And where'd I get that mixtape? Of course, www.cornerbodega.us, purveyors of urban culture. Come on, let's get back to the party.
And we are back, and before we get out of here, let's talk about today's sugar honey iced tea. And for those that don't know, these are things that I or a member of the group have found that are really cool, aka the shit. And because we're in Vegas, the thing that we found that is the shit is the Cirque du Soleil ZUMANITY show. First of all, let me start by saying I don't know how many people out there who have been to a Cirque show. They are a festival for the eyes and all of your senses of acrobatics and aerial stunts, colors, lights, sound, music. It's a fairly amazing spectacle. With ZUMANITY, now you add sexuality and just human bodies, because they are in various states of undress the entire show, the entire cast, and it was actually a really fun show. Okay, here we go. Full confession out there in podcast land. One of the things they do with ZUMANITY that's very interesting, that I don't know if they do in other Cirque shows, is that they interact with the audience quite a bit.
The whole show.
Yeah, so before the show starts and all during the show, they go out, they talk to people in the audience. Eventually, they start actually pulling people from the audience up on stage. So, seeing that this was happening, I and the rest of the group that I'm with, we decided probably not a good idea to feed the animals, meaning don't give them eye contact. So
we did.
Yeah. Well.
KG and
KG was fully giving eye contact.
I was ready. I'm like, yeah, pull me up there. I'm ready to, just show a little, something. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Whatever they have, I was ready.
So, who gets pulled up? Not KG. Not KG's husband. Not the anonymous female. Yes, you said it in your mind. I heard you out there in podcast land. Yes, your boy. I got put up on stage, and I'm trying hardest not to make eye contact. And I got pulled up on stage. But if you know me out there in podcast land, I don't buckle from a challenge. They pulled me up on stage, and this happened. I'll let the ladies tell the rest of the story.
So, he was pulled up there on a stage and had to do a little dance. So there was a male and a female cast member, and they also pulled up a woman out of the cast. She was also with another couple or what have you. So it was the two of them up there on the stage, and then there was the two male and female cast members. The male cast member did a little dance, kind of like a hip thrusting and stuff like that, and said that, hey, okay, now you got to copy it.
Right. Some hip thrusting and pelvic gyrations.
Yeah, that kind of gyration dance. Yeah. It was like, oh, okay, well, I could do that. So, of course, he was like, okay, I'm all in, and did his little gyration. Yeah, no problem. So, Anonymous, what happened next?
Well, as he said, if you know him, he went full head first into what they asked him to do. So there was some crotch grabbing and other gestures that we just won't mention in polite company.
Everybody polite around here?
I know what you're talking about. So there were some gestures that he had to make, kind of.
Oh, no. He wasn't asked to do that. You did that on your own.
Yes, he was. He was asked to simulate, a little bit of oral sex there.
Yeah.
Toward the female gender. So he was asked to do that by this dancer guy, right? And so he just went ahead and did that part of his hip thrust and gyration dance. It was like, oh, all right, whatever. So he was all in. The lady was kind of, embarrassed and like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? She had to grab her boobs or something like that. But it's like, whatever. So
and then it moved forward into later on in the night, and dancing and dipping and looking at boobs, and a little bit further into the night, and up pops a bed.
Yeah, out of the floor. There was no bed on the stage, when they pulled me up. I'm thinking embarrassing dancing for whatever.
Cool. Right.
Whatever.
Right.
Then up rises a bed out of the floor, and I'm like,
oh damn,
help me.
All I could do, I was in tears laughing so hard. It was hilarious. All I could think was, thank God they didn't pick me. So it was bedtime, and they got to be instructed on how you make the moves and whatnot in bed, and it was pretty interesting.
You're so PG. I thought this was supposed to be for grown folks.
Yeah, it was
just tell it like it is. So
just say you can do.
He had to lay down on the bed, and then the chick that was the volunteer from the audience had to straddle him and get in like full writing position. And she was all in, and then the bed stage thing just went back down into the abyss, wherever it was going. Right, it went down, and then the funniest part was we were like, oh, okay, it's over. Everybody started to clap and whatnot, and all of a sudden, this white substance pops into the air, like really high, and everybody knew what that was supposed to simulate. Not once, but twice. So, and it came out of the hole that the bed went into. So it was kind of like, okay, wow, that was, wasn't expecting that. And of course, laughter. I was in tears the whole time. It was hysterical. It was absolutely hysterical.
So I will say, just for all of you out there in podcast land, if you're going, what the, it was like silly string or something like that.
But it's white.
But it was like white silly string. And and I'll tell you what was even funnier is while they were shooting the silly string or whatever in the air, they were kind of hustling us like under the stage and trying to get us out. But so I didn't even know that was happening. Except as I'm getting off the bed to the step, something hits me in the back of the neck, and I'm like, "What the hell?" And a clump of silly string is on my neck, and I was like, "Oh God!"
Was that intense?
Yeah, I was like, "I have no idea what they're doing, and I don't know if I want to know what they're doing." But I will say. If you've never been to Vegas, or if you've never been to a Cirque show, you know what? Before I even go there, what was that old lady's name? That was
Adele.
Adele. Oh. You think I was all in? You think I like? Adele.
She was rolling in the
all in.
Yeah, she had
was
to be
with
about,
it.
72?
She was at least 70.
No, she was at least in her 60s.
Okay, mid-60s.
Yeah.
Okay. But hey,
All right.
she was all in. She had to simulate some oral acts. First of all, it was during a section of the show that looked like a big orgy.
It wasn't. It looked like a big orgy. It was a big orgy.
And so they pulled her and another guy up. They weren't doing a whole lot to the guy.
Yeah.
But Adele.
She stole the show.
But Adele was
She
serious.
stole the show.
I even saw a lot of the cast members were laughing.
Oh, yeah,
trying to keep them all themselves together because they were like, look at this.
Yeah, right. So my hat goes off to Adele out there because she was having a ball.
I love that. Are you feeling horny? Yes. She was pulling no punches.
That was funny.
So, as I was going to say, if you've never been to Vegas, or if you've never been to a Cirque show, and you are not sexually squeamish, please go check out ZUMANITY because it's really fun and it is the shit. As I do always at this time, I want to end the show with the toast that started it off for me, and that is to good times with good people.